Tonight, we're getting our first up-close look at the carnage left behind from the shootout and the standoff that spanned 7 hours.
700 North 15th Street, shots fired at police. Cars use caution, please, and respond.
It's right there.
Stand by. Car stand by. Second assist, 3750 North 15th. Shots fired. Shots fired inside.
You know, what happened in Philadelphia, which was a near tragedy, is a perfect example of why background checks don't work and are an inadequate protection. This guy had a criminal record, and he was able to hold off the police for 6 hours.
If you're interested, join my Patreon for ad-free, uncut videos. From time to time, I will release Patreon exclusives as an additional perk. There's also channel memberships if you want to support that way. But the biggest way to help non-monetarily is to like, subscribe, and comment. It helps the channel more than you know. District Attorney Larry Krasner, who helped negotiate Maurice Hill's surrender, said the man was desperate to, quote, end the situation without being killed. But Police Commissioner Richard Ross said this man was not going to go back to prison. He made that clear. This would be the juxtaposition of this case. Was he a crazed maniac with the intent on killing police, or was he just startled by the sudden explosion of commotion at his front door and eventually right in his kitchen? At around 4:30 on a sunny, hot, midsummer day in 2019, the calm on the Philadelphia city block was about to turn into chaos, and the whole city would become glued to this normally quiet street in Nicetown. Law enforcement officers went to serve the narcotics warrant, but ended up in an 8-hour standoff. During the standoff, news cameras were glued to the block, and social media was abuzz.
Where we have a view of the tactical units where they are stationed because they have access to this home from an alternate side. Don't want to describe exactly where they are, but it's a place that is serving as somewhat of an echo chamber. About 15 minutes ago, we did hear a series of loud bangs that seem to be gunshots. So as Joe mentioned, this is still an active scene, and residents are not only advised, they are ordered to stay back. On the other side of the police tape, on the other side of me, I would say there's about 100 people. They've been steadily out there with their eyes glued east to Broad Street. And when we walked up, I will say there was a strange silence to all of it. Really, the only thing that you could hear were the choppers hovering overhead. At this time, it's just a police chopper. Moments ago, we actually saw a drone as well. It's unclear who that belonged to. Hopefully it was the police, because it wouldn't be good to broadcast anything from a location that would compromise any of the officers out here right now.
Almost 200 rounds were fired from the gunmen and police combined, and 6 police officers would suffer injuries. In the end, Maurice Hill would be charged with over 70 crimes, but he claimed self-defense. With the trial just wrapping up, let's take a look at exactly what happened here. Most of my coverage will be coming from the reports from the Philadelphia Inquirer and 6ABC at the time.
Car stand by, please play radio, shots fired. Car stand by, 3700 North 15th Street, shots fired at police.
15 North 15th Street. Give me what you got. Multiple.
Car stand by, the sister officer, please play radio, shots fired, 3700 North 15th Street. 39th District, 3700 North 15th.
You got radio make the 101 in priority. Shots fired at police inside the property.
Inside the property.
15 North 15th Street.
All right, any injuries to police, sir, 3700.
Yeah, yeah.
Maurice, listen up. My guys who were hurt are going to be okay. All right, but we need you to be okay too. All right? They're getting hospital treatment, but I need things to me. All right? I need you to come out. I was a beautiful baby. I don't want to see her again. You don't have to take this outlook. You don't have to look at this in terms of finality because it doesn't have to be that way. You need to come out. We need to come on out. We want to help you. Come on out. I'm in room with the father. He needs guidance. He needs to with her place and help. Nathan 121, are you still?
We are pinned down on the second floor with 3 individuals handcuffed. You can hear the male downstairs moving in the first floor. Reload.
Nathan 121, just to confirm, you're on the second floor near the bathroom?
The rear bedroom. We have 1 male handcuffed in the front bedroom, female and male in the rear bedroom. Male is still downstairs actively shooting.
Maurice, put your hands on your head and come out the front door. Maurice, put your hands on your head and come out front. Maurice, put your hands on your head and come outside.
Law enforcement sources said police did not enter the house at 3712 North 15th Street looking for Maurice Hill, but were instead executing a search warrant on a house they believed to be a drug stash and decided to do a quote safety sweep of a nearby home at 3716, which they believe might be involved in the operation as well. They raided both houses almost simultaneously, sources told the Philadelphia Inquirer. When Narcotics Strike Force officers breached the front door at 3716, one team ran upstairs, another to the basement, and a third for the kitchen. That's where they say Maurice Hill opened fire, sending some officers fleeing and trapping the 2 who had gone upstairs. Those officers sought shelter in the bathroom for a time, hoping the tile floor would block some of the gunfire, and used radio to provide SWAT officers with layouts and conditions that were in the house. Throughout the standoff, the gunman was calling friends and the mother of his child, and many people called the police to identify him as the shooter. After hours of delay and stalling tactics, Maurice Hill's lawyer, Shaka Johnson, ended up on the phone with Larry Krasner to negotiate the surrender of Hill and an end to the chaos.
Alive. He told me that he was barricaded inside of this particular property, and he was in fact a part of the news story that I'd been and everyone else had been watching on television. Before that, I was a spectator like everyone else. Had no idea it was someone who I knew. At 8:30 when he called and I realized it was him, I instantly sprang into action by calling the district attorney and letting him know, listen, I know this guy, I got him on the phone, tell me what it is how we want to do this. Because he's expressing a willingness and a desire to come out. He just wants to make sure he does it in a manner that he doesn't get harmed, quite frankly. We then got Commissioner Ross involved on the phone, and there was a four-way conversation between Mr. Hill, Commissioner Ross, Mr. Krasner, and myself, trying to figure out a way to do this where there were no injuries to anyone, no further injuries, and certainly I wanted my client to not be injured as he was taken into custody. That took a while. It took a while. Lots of different opinions. Everyone had, sort of a different agenda, lots of different agencies, and so it took a while. At about 11:15, I got the notion that time was drawing nigh. And I told him that, listen, I've been given to 11:45 to get you out of that particular property, which is exactly what happened. I've been given till 11:45. And after 11:45, we're not certain where this is going to go. So I need you to come on out. He has a newborn daughter, 2 days old. He has a teenage son. So he had all sorts of considerations as well. It wasn't a situation where it was like, I'm not going, catch me if you can, I'm not going on that sort of thing. He was very much concerned with the collateral consequences of being arrested, which are his children, his wife, those sorts of things. Obviously, the police had an entirely different agenda. That being said, I told him, he asked me to come. He said, listen, Uncle, I only need you to be here when I come out. The kind of relationship that we've had over the years is it's matriculated into, he calls me uncle, I call him nephew. And so although we have an attorney-client relationship, that is how we communicate with one another. So I'm no hostage negotiator, never been. But I know how to talk to people, especially those I've had a certain kind of relationship through the years. I told him, I'm not going to be on this television, man, and watch you on this TV, on social media, and watch you go out in a blaze of glory. Like, I'm not going to be a part of that. So if you're not going to come out that house, I'm going to hang up this phone and I'm going to turn the TV off, because I'm not going to watch you get killed. And he asked me, can you come? Can you come here? Can you physically come here? I asked Commissioner Ross, not only could I come, but once allowed into the scene through the barricades and through the tape, how close would he allow me to get to the door? Because Maurice wanted me to meet him at the front door. Because of police protocol, and those guys were trying to be extraordinarily tactical, which is absolutely understood, I couldn't get to the door. But they did allow me to occupy the police vehicle that was outside and use their megaphone to let him know that I was physically on scene the way I promised him I would be. And I might say Mr. Krasner also promised that young man he'd be here as well, and he came as well. So Mr. Krasner and I were both here, and I wanted to let him know that we were here the way I told you we'd both be here, to make sure that when you come out, you are, in essence, taken alive.
In the days after the shooting, police cars and trucks lined up on Erie Avenue. A Philadelphia Police Crime Scene Unit, ATF, and Animal Control were on the scene, and officers, some wearing hazmat suits, entered the two homes. Police Commissioner Ross, in a press conference, said they could not enter the home earlier because the tear gas had not cleared out yet. The shooting on North 15th Street was almost immediately repurposed as a political tool. Mayor Jim Kenney and other lawmakers used in their tragedy to call for tougher gun laws. U.S. Attorney William McSwain, a Trump appointee, in effect blamed Krasner for the shootings, even though all of Hill's criminal cases predate Krasner's tenure as district attorney.
Different neighborhoods.
You say, oh my God, somebody got it shot.
Nobody signs up for violence in their neighborhood.
One challenge, how to stop it. And in Philadelphia, two of the city's top law enforcement officials don't agree.
There's a battle going on right now for the soul of Philadelphia.
That's William McSwain, the U.S. Attorney for Philly and the surrounding region, a federal appointee who's now taking on his counterpart in the city, District Attorney Larry Krasner, elected in Philadelphia as a new kind of DA, aiming to reform the criminal justice system.
We are in the midst of a serious public safety crisis in Philadelphia right now because of the policies that he is pursuing. And the reason I say that is because it's based on the data. I mean, look at the numbers.
We did. Homicides in Philadelphia are up 11% so far this year. But
Homicides went up in 2015, homicides went up in 2017, and they're not at the number that they were at in 2007, which was much more. So how can you blame that all on one man?
Well, you have to, first of all, look and see whether there's a correlation. Okay, correlation is not the exact same thing as causation, some sort of, proven causation, but it's undeniable that there's a very strong correlation.
Very much like the man who appointed him, Donald Trump, he has no interest in facts.
Larry Krasner says McSwain is wrong and that violent crime as a whole is down.
Do you think there's a public safety crisis?
Do I think there's a public safety crisis? I think we have a terrible problem with shootings. I think we have a terrible problem with gun violence and homicide.
The DA says the solutions are in structural issues like improving schools and access to jobs.
I think that what we're doing is exactly what we should be doing. But I think that politics does not tolerate long-term solutions.
Krasner says McSwain speaking out is all about politics. McSwain says it's about public safety, to make residents want to stay and businesses want to grow here.
In that sense, the soul of the city really is at stake in this philosophical battle that we're having.
Some people might say there was a fight, and it was between an old way of doing things and a new way, and the new way won.
Well, the battle is not over.
McSwain, ever the opportunist, swiftly used the incident to renew his criticisms of the Philadelphia district attorney. Despite people's best efforts at distracting from the issue, we were left with 6 officers shot, a man claiming self-defense, and little answers as to why this happened in the first place. Defense lawyers argued the day after the incident that if officers searched the property without a warrant, that could constitute an illegal search. Bradley Bridge of the Defender Association of Philadelphia emphasized that police were required to obtain a search warrant before entering a second location as mandated by the 4th Amendment. He argued that moving a duffel bag from one house to another does not qualify as an emergency that would justify bypassing that requirement. Other defense lawyers echoed this, pointing out that the Constitution protects individuals' privacy rights, and entering a property without a warrant, unless there's probable cause and a clear emergency, could raise serious legal concerns. This will lay the groundwork for Hill's defense. Philadelphia Police Commissioner Richard Ross defended the officers' actions, stating they likely had enough probable cause to enter the second house under, quote, exigent circumstances. He argued that if police were monitoring people moving drugs from one location to another, especially after obtaining a warrant for the first location, then entering the second location without a warrant could be justified to secure evidence. However, Ross also acknowledged that the situation was at the time still under review as they worked to determine exactly what took place. After almost 6 years, finally in 2025, Maurice Hill was brought to trial. During more than 2 weeks of proceedings, jurors heard impassioned arguments from Hill's defense attorney, Ellis Palavides, that his client acted in self-defense the day of the shooting, entering, quote, flight or flight mode when narcotics officers rammed open the front door of his residence. In their closing arguments, however, prosecutors suggested that defense was a distraction, telling jurors that Hill had attempted to, quote, assassinate the law when he fired more than 130 rounds from his AR-15 semi-automatic rifle, which had an obliterated serial number. There is overwhelming evidence of the worst police shooting in the history of this city, Assistant District Attorney Anthony Voci said during those arguments. The, quote, sheer number of shots Hill fired was crucial to sealing their argument, prosecutors said. This kind of evidence, shutting down an entire area, firing at police officers, has consequences, said Krasner, who recounted watching the incident unfold live on national news that afternoon. That was one dark day that went into a dark night, he said. Nicknamed Gruff, Police have known Maurice Hill to be heavy in the crack cocaine dealing world around Southwest Philadelphia Pascal Village projects for more than a decade. The youngest of 3 siblings raised by their grandmother, the only boy, Hill graduated from Bartram High School in 2001 with a trade certificate for heating and air conditioning systems. He never worked in the field, but held several jobs, including as a manager at KFC and later a Chuck E. Cheese. In 2006, he was shot 5 times in his legs in an incident at the Pascal Project's courtyard. Hill has been arrested about a dozen times since turning 18, beginning in 2001 when he was arrested for illegally possessing a firearm with an altered serial number and later convicted on 5 related charges. In 2002, he was arrested again and pleaded guilty to drug possession and criminal conspiracy. Over the years, Hill's crimes became more serious. He was convicted in 2008 for resisting arrest, trespassing, and fleeing police. Then he pleaded guilty to aggravated assault when he shot somebody in 2007. I mentioned earlier he was shot in 2006. Well, according to law enforcement, he would agree to testify against the shooter in exchange for leniency in his federal firearms case. Court records show he recanted on the witness stand and was later charged with perjury. Federal gun charges sent him to prison for nearly 5 years in 2010. He was found guilty of perjury in 2013 in the recanted witness case I just mentioned. Since his release in 2014, probation officers have accused Hill of continuing to violate the terms of his city and federal probation. He appeared before Common Pleas Court Judge Rayford Means on 3 occasions between 2014 and 2016. At least 2 of them related to new charges filed against him. In one of those cases, Hill was charged with drug possession and a host of other counts after a woman who claimed she'd agreed to sell marijuana for him feared Hill was preparing to kill her. The woman called the police and managed to escape the house where she was meeting him. Investigators later found crack cocaine and marijuana hidden in a tire in the back of the house, but the case was withdrawn by prosecutors when the woman failed to show up to testify, court records show. But in the most recent years leading up to the incident, his older sister said that he had been attempting to turn his life around. He was working at a warehouse and occasionally attended a mosque on 67th and Woodland, where residents reported seeing him and his ex-wife along with their teenage son. And 2 days before he opened fire on police from a 2nd floor window in Tioga, Maurice Hill and his girlfriend had a baby daughter. At trial, the facts of the case were pretty cut and dry. There wasn't really a question of facts, just perception of those facts. The prosecution opened with trying to paint a picture to the jury of Maurice Hill. They described the neighborhood and its propensity for drugs and violence. They got to the day in question, and the facts were laid out. At about 4:25, 5 patrol cars sped down the block of 3700 North 15th Street. Officers darted out of their cruiser over to a group of people who were hanging out on the porch of 3712, arresting 4 of them. But the encounter wasn't over. The cops turned their attention to another house 2 doors away with a white front door and a bay window. Police officials would later say someone had been observed carrying a duffel bag into the house, although that wasn't captured by intermittent security footage from across the street. The officers had reason to believe the bag contained drugs or guns. They faced a dilemma. Should they go into 3716? The decision was made quickly. They'd barge in and do a quote safety sweep, secure the house, and wait for a search warrant for that address too. The narcotics cops divided themselves into 3 teams and got ready to hit the front door. At the other end of the block, close to Butler Street, John Harris, who was 57 at the time, piled his dirty laundry into a basket and got ready to head around to the corner laundromat. He paused when he heard some commotion outside and headed toward his 3rd floor apartment window to peek outside. The cops plowed their way into 3716 and fanned out the way they'd been trained. One team ran up to the 2nd floor, another went down to the basement, and the 3rd headed toward the kitchen. And then everything exploded. From the 1st floor, 36-year-old Maurice Hill began firing an AR-15 wildly, taking advantage of the walls that separated the foyer, living room, kitchen, and gave him plenty of cover. Harris looked out his window, and his mouth dropped. He saw police officers with their guns drawn, some hunched behind cars, others running around, and neighbors scattering. He heard the unmistakable pop, pop, pop of gunfire. This is scary, he told himself. Radio calls began pouring in to the police dispatchers. One cop sounded rushed, not panicked. Shots fired, shots fired. Officer Sean Parker was the first member of the strike team unit that entered the home. In the kitchen, he encountered Maurice Hill, who prosecutors say used an assault rifle to unleash a hail of gunfire that afternoon that ultimately injured 6 officers and triggered a massive law enforcement presence that laid siege to the residential block. The second I looked into the kitchen, I saw a figure, a man there, his arm raised, Parker said. Then I saw a flash. I knew immediately I was shot in the head. Parker's thought during the gunfire were of his 2 young children, he said, one who had been born 2 months before. The officer recalled having one thought on his mind as he took cover beneath a window in the dining room, blood gushing onto the wall. Other officers also struggled with their recollections at trial. For Michael Guntier, who entered behind Parker after police bashed in the front door with a battering ram, testifying led to a similar breakdown. Bullets struck Guntier in both arms. The 18-year-old department veteran explained as images of each gaping impact were shown to the jury on a large video screen. Every time my heart beat, blood spilled out of my arms, Guntier said. Throughout the 2 days of testimony, there was little dispute between the prosecution and the defense that it was Hill who had fired upon the officers. Hill's team opted to go to trial rather than accept a plea deal that would result in a prison sentence of 40 to 80 years, and much of the defense's arguments centered on whether police were justified in entering the home in the first place. Officer Burkett, who was 26 and on the force for 2 years at the time of the incident, was shot in the left hand. Officer Harper, 43, a 19-year veteran assigned to the Narcotics Strike Force, was shot in the left leg. Officer Matthews, 31, who was on the force for 3 years at the time of the incident, had a graze wound to his left leg. And Officer Waltman, 42, a 12-year veteran assigned to the 19th District, was shot in his right hand. Parker, 32, and Gunter, also 32, make 6 officers shot. Meanwhile, the defense lawyer Palavides questioned witnesses about whether officers had announced themselves adequately before breaking down the door and sweeping through the home's interior. Multiple witnesses testified that they recalled officers announcing themselves. When you surprise people, that could trigger the fight or flight response, said Palavides during the opening remarks, telling the jury his client had been firing through the wall and could not see who was there, and quote, could not hear who was there. For the previous 5.5 years before Maurice Gruff Hill testified in his own defense, Philadelphia law enforcement officials and prosecutors have been the ones to recount the 2019 shooting. In April of 2025, after years of having the narrative set and not being able to give his side, Maurice, with his friends and family in the gallery, took the stand. Maurice Hill, the man at the center of the chaotic, hours-long standoff with Philadelphia police, testified that he had no idea he was shooting at law enforcement. According to Hill, the situation escalated quickly when narcotics officers stormed his home while he was in the kitchen. In a panic and believing his life was in danger, Hill said he fired blindly through a wall with his AR-15. I panicked. I didn't know what to do, he said, insisting that he would have surrendered peacefully if he hadn't been so afraid that the police would kill him. On the 6th day, Hill's defense team presented their case after several days of the prosecution testimony from narcotics officers. The defense called a variety of witnesses, including Hill's former attorney, several of his housemates who were caught in a crossfire, and the mother of his newborn daughter. And as I just mentioned, Hill himself testified in detail about the events leading up to the shooting, describing a seemingly normal day that began with a hospital visit and ended in a gunfight. He said he had just returned from shopping for baby clothes and lunch with a friend when he heard his dog barking moments before police burst through the front door. Hill claimed that the situation escalated in seconds. One of his dogs was fatally shot by police, and in the confusion, he opened fire, thinking intruders had broken in to kill him. He described the intense noise, smoke, and disorientation in the small apartment as bullets tore through the drywall. My adrenaline is up, he said, because I can't hear nothing. He maintained that he had no idea that the people entering his home were officers, and this lack of clarity formed the foundation of his defense. Also, that the warrantless entrance was unlawful and that police failed to properly identify themselves. Adding a surreal twist to the case, Hill said he realized police were outside his home after catching a glimpse of helicopter footage on the television news broadcast in his bedroom. During a standoff, which stretched more than 7 hours, Hill called his family and the mother of his newborn, believing he was about to die, he testified. "I'm crying because I know I'm about to die," he told the court, recalling his fear that if he tried to surrender, he would be shot on sight. Desperate, he also reached out to Shaka Johnson, a Philadelphia defense attorney who previously represented Hill. Johnson, who testified earlier in the week, described Hill as terrified during their phone calls. Johnson said he was watching coverage of the standoff on TV when he received a, quote, ominous text from Hill's sister and a call from the Enquirer reporter asking whether his longtime client might be involved. Within minutes, the lawyer's phone rang again. This time, it was Hill. Quote, "Even the way he sounded, I knew he was telling me it was him," Johnson said during trial down at CJC. Johnson also testified that he initially gave Hill a, quote, tongue lashing, but quickly turned towards persuading him to surrender himself. "I need you to come out of there safe," the lawyer recalled telling Hill. "I said, you gotta know the cops are pumped up on testosterone. Their brother officers have been hurt. The community's under siege. People locked out of their homes. They're not gonna play with you for long, so I need you to come out of there right now." That launched an intense negotiation among Hill, District Attorney Larry Krasner, and others, one which eventually ended with Hill agreeing to hand himself over to police.
A man accused of shooting officers in an hours-long standoff in August was back in court today. He is accused of multiple counts of attempted murder after 6 Philadelphia police officers were shot. Eyewitness News reporter Matt Petrillo is outside the Criminal Justice Center with today's developments. Matt?
Well, on top of those 6 attempted murder charges, Maurice Hill is also being held today on gun and drug charges. Today, here at the Criminal Justice Center, authorities revealed 5 weapons were recovered from that crime scene, including an AR-15.
This is a case that speaks for itself.
Prosecutor Anthony Voci, speaking outside the Criminal Justice Center today, said there's no doubt Maurice Hill tried to kill as many Philadelphia police officers as he could during a shootout and standoff with officers back in August. That's when officers say they were trying to serve a search warrant here in the city's Nicetown Tioga section when Hill started firing a huge cachet of rounds at police for nearly 7 hours, striking 6 men in uniform.
You fire that many guns and you hit as many officers that he hit with no regard for the value of human life, you don't have to be able to argue that case whatsoever. It literally speaks for itself.
During the preliminary hearing today at the Criminal Justice Center, we also heard from the first officer to get into Hill's home, Sean Parker. He testified about the moment he walked into Hill's kitchen and a bullet suddenly grazed the left side of his head. Quote, "I immediately saw a flash and I knew I was shot. I took cover, began firing into the kitchen. I was trying to figure out how I was going to get out of the house. It was constant gunfire from the kitchen." Officer Parker later made a harrowing escape by smashing a window with his gun and climbing out of it before running to a patrol car.
I think the bravery of the Philadelphia Police Department was on full display.
And again, Maurice Hill faces 6 attempted murder charges, but today the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office announced that it is filing an additional 60-plus attempted murder charges. Hear why they're filing those now, 4 months since that shootout, coming up on Eyewitness News at 6. Reporting live in Center City, Matt Petrillo, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Matt. See you then.
After the shootout, residents found themselves living in a weeks-long crime scene as investigators examined almost 200 rounds of bullets fired during the standoff, impounded cars for evidence, and inspected bullet holes in homes. Whenever I see a case like this, I always wonder what was going through everyone's head that day. Do police reflect on their actions that day, which in my opinion were reckless, and how not following protocol to a T can get them killed? Maurice Hill was found guilty on May 5, 2025 of 3 counts of attempted murder, 9 counts of aggravated assault, 9 counts of assault on a law enforcement officer, recklessly endangering another person, causing catastrophe, simple assault, and possession of an instrument of crime. He was also convicted on 2 firearms charges. However, he was found not guilty on 9 counts of attempted murder, 3 counts of aggravated assault, and 3 counts of assault on a law enforcement officer, 1 count of unlawful restraint, 1 count of unlawful restraint with serious bodily injury, 1 count of conspiracy, and 1 count of possession with intent to deliver drugs. Whatever happened that day, law enforcement did everything they could to cover their story as the duffel bag became less of an issue, seeing as 6 officers were shot. So any claim of illegal warrants or any claim to that effect Maurice Hill would have had went out the window. Coming up, look forward to my 100K video explaining the sad history of Philly drill, my time covering it, and the devastation it left in its wake in the last 7 years. Also, the Los Diablos video is in the works, so look out for that as well. My Patreon has an exclusive video going over the career of Snoop from The Wire and how her life imitated her art, or vice versa, whichever way you look at it. I'm gonna leave it there for now. Thanks for watching American Confidential, and until next time, be safe.
55 on J. John with a priority. Hey, Tom 2. Strike force 55 or 54 with a priority on J. John.
3715 to assist you officer. Shots fired, shots fired.
Car standby. Car standby. Car standby. Car standby. 50 officer, police priority. Shots fired. 3700 North 15 to 50 officer, police by radio. Shots fired. Car standby. 50 officer, police by radio. Shots fired. Car standby, 3700 North 15th Street, shots fired at police.
15 North 15th Street, give me what you got. Multiple shots.
Car standby, the sister officer, police by radio, shots fired, 3700 North 15th Street. 39th District, 3700 North 15th.
You got radio, make the 101 in priority. Shots fired at police inside the property.
Inside the property.
15 North 15th Street.
Alright, any entries to police, sir, 39th District, shots fired, 3715 North 15th.
Who's there? I'm in the office.
Possibly, enter officers, we got a possible barricade.
Great radio. Hey, team's going down.
Cars used, caution, please, and respond.
It's right now.
Stand by. Car standby, second assist, 3715 North 15, shots fired inside.
Crazy 101 in, he's kind of still ringing off. Give me SWAT ASAP. Long gun ASAP. This is Nathan 101 in, goddamn still shot.
Car standby.
Radio.
Car standby, 39th District, assist the officer.
Police.
37, car standby, 39th District, 3715 North 15, assist the officer, second call, shots fired, at police.
Radio, I got an officer shot, radio. Alright, so I'm spot.
Car standby.
I need help. Radio, listen, take the 101 in. I got an officer shot at this location in the leg.
Car standby, assist the officer, third call, 3715 North 15. We got an officer down. That's repeating in the 13th District, 3715 North 15. Assist the officer, police by radio, third call. We got an officer shot at that location.
121, please, send additional cars immediately. Additional cars were shots still fired. We're fired. There's the 101 Indy. Still shots fired. I got officer shot at this location. Looks like lower extremities of perpetrators.
Car standby.
Charlie, let's get that officer there.
Car standby. It's going to be a 3715 North 15th. Assist the officer, please by radio. We got several shots, officers. We got an officer down. That's repeating in the 39th District, 3715 North 15. They're still getting shot. Shots fired. I need long gun SWAT. 3715 North 15th. Assist the officer, please by radio. We have an officer shot, and they're still being shot at. 15th Street, 3715 North 15.
Awesome, Bronco.
Alright, Tom, just right down here, guys. Full units coming to your location.
Got you. Officers in 3916 car. Oh, shit. We'll be transporting the shot officer to Temple. Actually, transmission. Transit police has the shot officer. 3916 is on the transport. Follow over radio.
Hey, sir. This is going to be a barricade.
$15 for Butler, staging air radio.
Alright, it's going to be...
Don't know.
Alright.
Show me my target location radio for staging area. Be advised, we're still pinned down inside this location. The male is inside the kitchen, shooting upwards and forward into the opposition of the police.
Alright, units, use caution. Okay, the Nathan unit that's coming over J. John Street. What's the barricade location and what's the staging area going to be, sir?
Andy, the shot officers en route to Temple with transit police followed by 3919. Staging location, 15th and Butler. 15th and Butler. Target location for shots fired at police, 3716 North 15th Street.
Alright, do I have SWAT officers?
Temple.
There's a route.
Alright.